dare great things for Christ. Christ calls us to dare great things. In the marketplace, as well as in the mission field, there has never been a time like the present for the spirit of the Catholic entrepreneur. Now is the time for men and women of great courage and great vision to engage our church and our culture. Now is the time to dare great things. And here is your host as we dare great things, Father Nathan Cromley, the president and founder of the St. John Institute.
Leadership is not done in a vacuum. In fact, the cultural situation we find ourselves in often influences the decisions we have to make. This is why it's so important for Christian leaders to always remember the importance of their role as leaders in a world that is marked by sin. In today's episode, the second of our series of Leaders in a Broken World, we develop the importance of Christian leadership for providing true unity and creating true harmony for the betterment of all. All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm glad you're here again to this seminar together where we are trying to understand the bigger perspective around our leadership. And this, of course, is very valuable because the more that we have a sense of the whole of the reason why we lead, the better decisions we're going to make as a leader, and the better that we're going to be able to perform in our leadership, not just for the temporal or for the immediate needs, but for the real purpose. And remember, this is something that applies to all of you, whether you're leading at home, in your family, in your social settings, whether you're running a small club for a group of your friends, or whether you're the president of your HOA. It's the same principle, the same thing that applies whether you're running a business or a professional or an entrepreneur or working for a publicly traded company. The principle is this, that when we exert an influence, we are responsible for the influence that we exert. And that therefore the influence that we exert is actually an opportunity to do good. All right? And that means that God is at work in and through our lives. Now, this is a distinctly, of course, religious perspective, but then for we who are Christians, we say that we are the members of the body of Christ. So Jesus Christ himself will be healing, blessing, uplifting the world, carrying on his saving mission, right, to redeem a broken humanity through us. Now, it's such a beautiful thought that our life has a greater purpose. The reason why God gave you the company that he gave you, in other words, let's suppose I deal with many people that they become successful. Their company is really good. They come to a point where they say, God, why has God blessed me with such success? Now, of course, that's not always the case. And, many of us struggle with our companies. But for those of you who have reached a certain degree, a level in your business where you say, my goodness, I'm nailing this and it's going well. But why would God want to give this to me? It can be a real daunting thing because we usually think smaller about ourselves instead of bigger. And so we hide, therefore, from the understanding that maybe God gave you that success so that you serve him with it. But what would happen if you understood that your promotion wasn't just for you, but that was actually so that you could exert his influence through your promotion? That your success as you sold your business wasn't just for your personal wealth or profit, but so that you could, in fact, bless the world through the profit that you've generated. Or again, maybe if your business is just going really well and you say, why is it going so well? Maybe it's so that the culture that you can create there will actually influence the world around you. The other businesses can be inspired by what you are doing, and that inspiration can change the culture. So many times people challenge, they say, Father Nathan, why did you start the St. John Leadership Network? What are you trying to accomplish by the work that you're doing as a priest working in businesses? I mean, we all know that the church's focus is on the family and on individuals as they, sanctify society. And so you say, well, that seems to be more appropriate for a priest. Why would a priest speak about social concerns, economy, and the world of business and transaction, communications, and things like that? Well, number one is because those things shape the life of the family. And those things become the context in which an individual's sanctification is enabled or is hindered. And that's why I want to speak to them. Because if I can somehow or other make that the worker's life in a typical company or a professional's life on a career path is genuinely human and open to the values that come from faith, well, then they're going to go home to their families and live their family life with a degree of excellence. I think that it's almost impossible to lead your family well if you feel bad about yourself. And the place where you're going to discover your own sense of value in a very real way for a vast majority of Americans is how they feel about their jobs and their careers and what they do at work every day. And if that workspace, in other words, is then domineered by values that are materialistic or antithetical to the human spirit, well, the people who are swimming in those values every day are going to bring those home. And it's going to become impossible for family life to emerge beyond those set of values that is being instilled in it through the cultural expressions that themselves are being driven by the marketplace. So this is why I'm going after the world of business. Going after the world of business through you and with you so as to save the culture of the home. And by saving the culture of the home, to promote the individual sanctification of each person, right? It's to allow there to be a thriving culture where the human spirit can be as broad and open and experience reality in as rich a way as possible. To do that, we've got to get a hold of industry. We've got to get a hold of the professional understanding of things and infuse the economy and the world of business with these values, the values of the human heart and of the human soul. And by consequence, not only the world of business, but we lay hold of everywhere where we interact with one another. I mean, the days of us being anonymous about our understanding of the world need to be cut short, okay? Because our understanding of the world is a beautiful one. Our philosophy of life as Christians is necessary and is a light for the path of so many other people who otherwise would stumble around in the darkness, not understanding the beautiful way that we could live. I mean, there was a time in our culture where we had a very Christian-based culture and everyone had a similar way of looking at things. And so there it was harder to stand out and easier to just become anonymous and make faith a personal thing because we said our culture will take care of the rest. Well, today we're in a situation where the cultural values are changing. For the first time in American history, more people are not attending Sunday service of a Christian service than are. Those who go to church every Sunday are, for the first time in American history, a minority compared to the majority. Well, that means there's going to be a tipping point. When you start looking at the statistics coming out of the research of the young people and their understanding of belief and of God and their practice of religion, very soon when those young people hit maturity, we're going to have a cultural shift. Right? It's important for us to see this coming and say, now is the time to light the candle. Now is the time to say who we are and why we are, and to not be ashamed of it. And to do that, I'm starting with you. And I'm asking, do you understand who you are and why you are as a person in leadership? And I'd like to say, you don't think too small of it. Remember that influence that you have has been given to you by God in order to use you as his instrument to influence the world in his way. Now, what is his way? It's a way of healing a broken world.
Would you like to hear more from Father Nathan? Join the St. John Leadership Network and receive a 2-minute glance at the gospel every Sunday morning right to your phone. To learn more, go to www.stjohnleadershipnetwork.org/member and join for free today.
All of us who lead in the name of Christ need to understand what's specifically different about our leadership, right? We understand leadership has many of the same characteristics regardless of faith, regardless of how you're doing it or where you're doing it, right? Like we have to be able to communicate. We have to be able to delegate. We have to be able to empower. We have to be able to build trust with the people that are going to follow us. We have to have a mission and a vision, and we have to tap into deep well springs of passion inside of us to drive through all kinds of adversity. Okay, all these things are important, and none of them are bad. And all of them are a very human thing. What's specifically different, though, about a Christian is that we do this as an explicit instrument of Jesus Christ, meaning that he's going to exert his power, his influence, the designs of the Holy Spirit through our life, right? And that ought to excite us, because it means that by doing the things that we do every day, we get to do them for the greatest and most meaningful of purposes. We get to work for something higher than ourselves, right? And on the one hand, that has a spiritual significance, like to glorify God, which ought to make us kind of excited. I mean, just think about that. Think about how neat it is to look at the people next to you. You go ahead and turn your heads, look at the people sitting next to you. Now realize that every person that you're looking at is a son or a daughter of God. I mean, it's just kind of, it's almost such a brilliant thought that we hide from it. We say that's just incredible. The thing that I'm sitting next to an immortal being, this person I'm sitting next to will exist for all eternity. Okay, they came into being when they were created, and they will never die. They will never cease to exist. So it behooves us to make friends with our colleagues, because we're going to be seeing them for all eternity. Right, but it's so stunning an idea that Almighty God made each person in this room right now, and he made them individually, and he made each person unrepeatedly. Like there's no one else in history that has ever been like this person, or this person cannot be replaced. Every single one of you. Just when you sit there and think about it, it becomes overwhelming, because that's the same thing then for all of our customers. That's the same thing for all of our employees. That's the same thing for all of our direct reports, for all of our managers. That in fact, we are living a reality that's holy, where God himself is expressing his image and likeness in every single person, whose lives crosses our own. And therefore, our businesses, our commerce, our trade, our industry, our manufacturing, man, it all is a reflection of a bigger plan. You can say, well, what is that bigger plan? Well, as a Christian, of course, we can speak to that bigger plan. From the Christian perspective, the world suffers because of sin, right? That there was an original plan for this world that God had made, which was to glorify him, to be his reflection of his image and likeness, and that all people would live in unity together, glorifying him. And because of original sin, the sin of Adam and Eve in the garden, that this world suffers in many different ways. It's become a broken world, which is still good. It maintains its goodness, and it maintains its orientation towards God, but remains unfulfilled and under the weight of forces within itself that then are perpetuated by its own culture, that are pushing against creation's quest for its own fulfillment and for its peace. The world is good, essentially, but broken, right? Like the pieces are there, but they're out of place. And this is where we talk about salvation. Salvation, of course, is that God himself bends down to save this broken world. But he doesn't save the broken world from the outside only. He also asks us to cooperate, to be a part of that salvation. So that when we receive his grace, just like when society receives a Christian leader, well, Christian, meaning you and your influence, on the one hand, it's coming from the outside because it's coming from God. And on the other hand, it's coming from the inside because it's coming through you. Meaning that it's through the influence of someone living well that life is healed. It's from a business leading well and functioning well that other businesses they catch the spirit of the thing. We can, in other words, lead through our companies in a way that brings healing by doing the things that companies are supposed to do in the way they're supposed to do them. Just like doing our jobs in the way that they should be done. Good work, done well, generating a profit that goes back to help all those others to rise. This is the vision of a healthy humanity in business, and it's a responsibility that we've been given. Right? Do we do good goods and services? Do we work in safety and develop our people? And do we generate a profit that goes to help the poor and to generate even more industry and business in a cycle that goes ever upward? This is the Catholic understanding and vision for business. This is why we're leading. But there's another beautiful message that I want to bring forth in particular today, and it's that we unify a broken and divided world. Now, this is a huge theme, right? And we see that the secular culture's picked up on it. There's such a call today for diversity. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, for example, is a whole movement that seems to epitomize this thirst that we have to find concord, to find harmony, to say, look, everybody, no matter how diverse they are or different they are, you have a role to play in our world. And we're trying to include you, to bring you forth so that all the different perspectives can have a representation and their voices can be heard and their contribution can be given. It's something that really sounds very noble to all of us. We hear that, and especially we who are Christian, we smile at that. We say, oh my gosh, that's exactly where we should be going. No one should be excluded or left behind, when in fact we all need each other to be represented. Right? And that thrust has affected many of you, some of you in ways that are negative, right? You look at that, you say you feel like your freedom has been impinged upon, or you say that you don't think that it's been really for the best good, because just on the contrary of building up your company, it can actually undermine it, right? And sometimes instead of creating that unity that we all want, our efforts to create it can actually hurt it, because you can pit different people against each other, right? So it's kind of funny that on the one hand, we say we really want diversity and we want inclusion, but then we take the means of doing it that can sometimes pit people against each other sometimes, right? This is it's a real challenge. And it's a challenge that we're living today. I mean, we live it in our companies with the policies and things that we implement, but even more profoundly, we live it in our personal mindset and in the way that we look at the diversity of our societies, of our own children and our family, for example, of our friends and the different opinions that people have. How do we bring unity out of diversity? E pluribus unum, right? That's of course, the expression that's written on our dollar bills. Out of the many, one. We all desire that. I mean, a great conversation is where you have diversity of opinions, and yet you come to a certain unity of perspective that harmonizes those. Or in music itself, where you've got diverse tones that are brought together into a beautiful chord. I mean, when it's done correctly, diversity becomes a huge asset. It's like when you create a council or a committee, and on the one hand, the committee should be diverse, and you've got different approaches and different histories, different ways of looking at the world, but you're looking for a unity. You're not looking for where the whole exists in order to serve the parts. You're looking for those parts to serve the mission of the whole. And that's a challenge, right? And yet it's a challenge for which you are uniquely equipped as a Christian, because our faith is a faith of unity. And Jesus Christ can show a way that through your leadership will benefit not only you individually and not only your business, but even our society as a whole. And I want to unpack that for you.
Would you like to start your Thursday mornings with a scriptural leadership lesson? Join the St. John Leadership Network, where Father Nathan hosts a 30-minute call at 6:30 a.m. in all 4 U.S. time zones. To learn more, go to www.stjohnleadershipnetwork.org/member and join for free today.
The Christian vision for unity of many parts is not the same as uniformity. And herein lies a genius that many people in our world can overlook. For most people, unity means everyone being the same, everybody agreeing, everybody having the same opinion. And that's not it. That's not it. There's a deeper unity that can actually admit a diversity at a more superficial level. And when you've got that, when you've got diversity of approach and yet unity of mission, you've got a real powerful mechanism that can adjust, pivot, flex, and yet still hit the goal. I mean, this is actually what we should be striving for in our world of leadership. To ask everybody to be uniform means that the leader's role is to cast a vision that then doesn't allow for flexibility or diversity of expression or newness of innovation. And that's, of course, death. We can't do that. We have a different opportunity as a leader. And our roles allow us to instead seek to find a way to allow all of the differences that exist in any group to serve the one purpose. And by doing that, the one purpose shines out, and yet at the same time is flexible and can adjust and can incorporate strengths that otherwise would lie hidden. In the Middle Ages, St. Thomas Aquinas called this the unity of peace. And later on, the church developed that understanding as the common good, right? But the common good is not just material. The common good is also this inner spiritual harmony of hearts that we understand to be our common mission. And this is the primary goal of a leader. It's not just to equip on the outside with great machines and great policies and practices. It's to equip on the inside, to embody the brand, right? To embody the mission of the organization to such a degree that you're able to see in each person and in their divergent resources and backgrounds and histories, their place in the whole and in the mission. You're bringing a harmony that doesn't require, like a harmony of a chord in music, doesn't require that the different tones be the same tone. No, but it brings them together. All right, so what unites? All right, there's 3 tools that a Christian can use for that. Number 1 is the common mission, understanding the bigger purpose and bringing that out in our leadership. I mean, if you're going to say that everybody, you all have jobs here and you work for me in order to make a paycheck, you're really defining the unity of your company at a very low level, okay? And that's a very low level because this remains individual. I don't know why I would try to contribute to the whole except that it serves me, right? But if you were able to show the goodness of your company and allow each person who's working there to discover the real value of their job, beyond their paycheck and what they get out of it, but the service and that they provide and the good that they're actually creating so that they can be proud of their work. Well, now you've created something that where people can care about their company, not just in a self-serving way, but as part of their worldview for something deeper and higher. Right? So I'd like to challenge you. Where in your leadership do you see and do you inculcate the bigger perspective? How do you communicate to your people, even if it's just your direct reports who are reporting up to you? How do you communicate to them the success of what you're doing? Is it just a success in terms of the numbers? That's very important, right? But couldn't we communicate a deeper way of success? What about the impact? What about sharing customers' stories, consumers' experiences? What about sharing the way that we have journeyed, even as a working team, to enjoy one another, to appreciate one another's lives? How can we break the mold of a purely materialistic construct by bringing the human heart and making it awaken it? It's so important. Awakening the hearts of the people that we work with, that's our job. It's not even to bring them to faith, okay? You don't even have to talk about God to do this. You're doing the work of God because you're linking the daily experience of the worker towards their purpose. And by doing that, by having that one purpose, you're linking them together. I mean, a great company should be a place that we don't really want to leave. A great company or a great team, it should be a place where we find value and we are able to look at ourselves with a little bit more pride and understanding, where we reciprocate humanity to each other. And this is a sign of a harmony of peace when it's been found. And this is what our leader needs to do. How do we, in other words, build up one another's sense of respect, one another's sense of understanding? You see, it's like the Christian leader is healing a broken world by not feeding into the things that divide us, but instead creating something that unites us, our purpose. Second tool that we use is values. It's just real simple, right? Like, we are not people just doing things. We're doing things in a certain way. So what we're doing has value. That's the purpose. That's very important. And yet the way that we do it needs to align with that purpose. If indeed we're doing our business, our profession, not just to make good goods and to do good services, but to do them well then the experience itself has value. Work itself, the time we spend together, that has value itself. Well, that needs to be commandeered by a set of values that create the culture. We can be unified, diverse about many things. We can have many opinions about many things, but we may not be diverse about understanding how we need to work together to get the most out of it. A Christian leader has a distinct advantage here because our religion allows us, our faith allows us to enshrine values that are genuinely good. Right? Like take, for example, competition. We all need competition. Competition is a great thing. Competition can inspire wonderful things amongst our teams. Competition is fun, but competition can also go too far. And so how do you know how far to be competitive or the way to be competitive? Well, a Christian instinctively knows these things because a Christian allows the love of God to provide a limit and a parameters for things, for all things, including competition. Charity, in other words, is at the root of all human actions that are genuinely good. Well, charity is a Christian's coinage. It's what we deal with. It's what we do. And so we have an advantage when it comes to leading in that way. We can unite, in other words, by setting a set of values that's genuinely defensive of the authentic humanity that we're trying to promote. And of course, that goes right into the third tool, which is the common understanding of the plan. Not only do we have the purpose, not only do we set the values, but we are maintaining both the understanding of the trajectory, where we are from our history to our future as we usher our people through the changes through which we're leading. As we do this work of unifying our people, unifying those who are influenced by us, we're doing God's work. Because we're allowing human beings to not be separated from each other, but instead to find authentic richness deep down inside of each one, to mine the greatness of one another as we highlight and bring forth the good work we can all do. This is our joy. This is our opportunity as Christian leaders.
Dare great things for Christ.
Share your feedback with Father Nathan. Send us an email at communications@stjohninstitute.org. That's communications@stjohninstitute.org. And visit www.stjohninstitute.org and sign up for our newsletter to receive updates from Father Nathan.